Hi everyone, welcome to the Print Space. We're very honoured to have David here today, who's going to talk about his work and in particular in the run-up now to the Taylor Wessing Prize 2015 has some very interesting insights on winning the prize last year. Thanks to Skinny Dip for making this all happen as well.
So I've been obviously invited to talk about the Taylor Wessing image and the prize that I won, which was like a massive shock, and it's been like a really amazing kind of year just for having won it. And so I've been invited to kind of talk about what it's like to have won it and how the picture came about, and maybe I can like offer some pointers or maybe not. That's me in 1987 on the right in the dodgy pair of shorts. I basically I went to Ipswich Art School and did a foundation course and then applied for a fine art degree at Goldsmiths, and they told me to come back in a year's time. So I got in a huff and didn't go back, and decided to pursue a musical career instead, which I'd been kind of dabbling with at art college. And the reason why this kind of picture is important is because the guy that took it is a photographer called Adrian Green, and I was at college with him. He just graduated, and I kind of commissioned him, or got him to shoot all our sleeves for the band, and in our kind of short career, he kind of made quite a lot of money out of us. And then what happened when the band basically fell apart a few years later, he kind of felt quite guilty about all the money he'd made, and he offered me a job as an assistant. So I didn't go to college and study. I just took the route of assisting, and basically kind of making friends with all his clients, and then gradually getting to know them. And if they had a small job that was too small for Adrian, they'd kind of offer it to me. And through that kind of process, I gradually started taking more and more pictures. So that's Adrian on the left, very good-looking guy, and that's me on the right. This is like a Polaroid we mocked up to kind of show the kind of level of importance. He said I had to be really small because he was the master. He was really, he's talking about him like he's dead, he's still alive, he's still taking pictures. And he's a really good photographer. But yeah, so he was super simple in his lighting stuff, which I kind of really liked, and obviously took on. So I started doing lots of pictures for magazines like Smash Hits and Just 17. This is Billy Piper tearing a teddy bear up, which is a bit weird. This is a cover I did for the NME of Damon Albarn in a tiger suit. This was supposed to be an homage to a David Sims face cover of Kurt Cobain in a tiger suit, which kind of went horribly wrong. So when I was working for Adrian, basically the reason I kind of started getting more into photography was at the time photographers like David Sims and Corinne Day were like a massive influence. This is Emma Balfour, who was David Sims' girlfriend at the time. And he just took amazing pictures of her. And they weren't like any other kind of fashion shots that I'd seen at the time. They just had a kind of brilliant rawness, and I don't know, they were just like really exciting. So going back to the Taylor Wessing. So this year I'd entered it a few times before, and I hadn't really entered it properly. I'd entered a picture of a model, which I thought was kind of quite portrait-y, but it actually kind of wasn't that kind of interesting. I didn't put it in a transparent sleeve, which we were supposed to do, and I kind of entered it in quite a small image. And so this year, apart from this shot, I decided to enter this one, which was from a series of kids that I went back to my old high school in Suffolk, and I wanted to do like an alternative school portrait where you weren't wearing a uniform, you were kind of just wearing your favourite clothes or stuff that expressed what you kind of liked at the time. So they would have a kind of record of when they looked back at when they were at school, they'd kind of think, oh yeah, I was into like that music then, or I was, I'm not just wearing an anonymous outfit, which doesn't really show anything. This guy was quite cool because he turned up in this suit, and I was like, why are you in a suit? And he said, basically, if I dress like an MP, I'm going to become one. And which I thought was brilliant. And then I entered this one of a friend of mine called Christopher, another guy from Sweden. And this was just taken at the breakfast table in my old flat in Stockwell. Quite a cool tattoo he's got as well, of a kind of incongruous butterfly. I just assumed that these images, which are kind of super portrait-y and, I don't know, quite kind of serious, were what the judges would really be looking for at Taylor Wessing. I wanted to enter this shot, and a few friends, a friend of mine, Sipka, he basically said, oh, you have to enter this one. I think you'll have a real shot with it. And I was kind of thinking, well, no one's looking at the camera. The dog's like in the middle. I don't know. I love the picture because all the elements are just perfect, like the beer cans, and the light is really beautiful. And but I kind of, because it was so painterly, I just thought I'll give it a shot. I mean, when you look at all the shots that I entered together, this one looks really kind of quite incongruous with the others. I was basically over in Sweden at my girlfriend's friend's farmhouse, and they have a huge party at midsummer. And this is actually my girlfriend's sister on the left, Carolina, and we kind of passed Conrad, our son, over to her to introduce him to our friends. And I was standing opposite, watching the kind of scene, holding my camera, which I always took there because there's always kind of lots of stuff to photograph. And yeah, I mean, the scene just looked so kind of perfect. It was weird. Well, it's not weird. It was like looking at a contact strip, a digital contact strip, where each kind of frame, it was kind of just getting better and better. And then suddenly, bing, that one was in the middle, and there was just every single thing about it was perfect. I don't know, everything just kind of fell into place. It just has a real atmosphere to it. I went for the biggest print that I could afford because I'd also heard that the judges like big prints, and I thought if you entered a small print and you won it, say, you could then print it as any size you wanted. But I don't think that's the case. I think the size you enter with is the size that goes up on the wall. So I was quite glad in that respect that I went for something larger, because when I sort of saw it in the gallery, it looked really quite impressive at that size. It was only afterwards that I started reading a few blogs, and people were like saying, "Oh, was it taken on a mobile phone? Is it a portrait? Is it a picture of a dog? Is it?" To me, it's a portrait of my son in a really kind of beautiful moment. Sounds really over the top. It's just a really touching moment that kind of, where everything fell into place. So in that respect, for me, it is a kind of portrait. I would never now enter like a really kind of bog standard portrait of somebody. I would try and do something darker maybe, or a bit more with more people in it, or more kind of away from the norm. This kind of proves that you don't really have to kind of follow any kind of example, really. Yeah, I mean, it was a weird thing for me because he's only like 19 months old, and I remember kind of thinking, God, I won the Taylor Wessing prize because of him, basically, because he was the inspiration, and that it wouldn't have happened. It's a really nice prize to win because you don't just kind of win it and then that's it. And obviously the money, it's a lot of money, and I know no one believes it, but the money really was completely irrelevant. It was kind of, because I remember the cheque was like in a plastic bag, and I gave it to my mum, I think, to hold. She kind of put it down somewhere, and I was like, "Oh, have you got that bag?" And she was like, "I went, oh, the check's in there." And she was like, "Oh." So that's sort of sitting in I mean, really that has to go to Conrad, I guess. Well, not all of it. Well, no, pretty much all of it. For me, it was just the kudos and the kind of seal of approval from people that I really respect was just massive. I mean, that morning when I went there, I just thought, oh, I'll probably just get some weird pictures of some Swedes kind of doing some weird stuff. I won't get something. You just never know, basically. That's what's so brilliant about taking pictures. Don't make the mistake I did of entering loads of a kind of arty series of earnest school children being weird. Do you know what I mean? Try just do something really honest, I think, and something that really happens naturally. Well, not naturally. You can't walk around going, "Oh God, that's natural. I'll get that in the National Portrait Gallery." But just do something really true to yourself, or kind of, don't go by the mistake I made every year when I entered, and this year, thinking that they wanted to see these kind of quite stylized portraits, which they are kind of criticised for picking these kind of things, but obviously they're probably sick of them and they want something different now. So the gloves are off now, aren't they? I think you can probably enter anything now, as long as it's a kind of got some a bit of substance. Doesn't have to be that kind of straight portrait thing. be really interesting to see what wins this year. Pick something that you really genuinely like and think has a proper chance of winning it, rather than trying to like tailor your picture to what the judges want. Well, thanks a lot.